right, folks, please silence your devices. We are about to start. All right, so it's 6 o'clock. I call this meeting of Saginaw City Council to order. Please rise for the pledges. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Please be seated. Item 1C is the invocation. For that, Reverend Mark Towns. Welcome, sir.
Mayor and council, it's good to see you this evening. Just want to let you know I love where I live, and I want to lead us in prayer tonight. Heavenly Father, we come before you on this great day to give you thanks and praise. We ask that you would guide the leadership of this great city and that you will help us as neighbors to reach out, to be the connecting points of relationship, of service, and of devotion to this area that you've given us to live. We thank you so much for the blessing of being together on this evening, and I pray for my brothers and sisters and ask that you would be with them in a very special way because of their selfless servanthood and tireless work to serve this community. Pray your blessing on them in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Reverend. Item 1D is audience participation. You may speak on any item that is listed on the agenda. Please see the city secretary to do so. Moving forward, 2 is the consent agenda. A is action regarding minutes of September 17th. B is action regarding minutes of September 23rd joint workshop, City Council and Parks Board. C is action regarding ordinance 2024-23 industrial waste ordinance amendment. D is action regarding 2024 holiday event drone show. And E is action regarding amendment to STW Inc. OpenGov software agreement. Any comments, questions on the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion we approve the agenda as presented.
Brack, second. Please cast your votes.
Uh-oh.
Motion passes. Let the record reflect we do have a quorum, a full house. Thank you for coming this evening, folks. Moving forward, item 3 is employee recognition. I think we have several.
Yeah, defer to Chief Ragsdale, Police Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of council, so we're here to recognize our last corporal position that was promoted back in, I think it was late May, early June. So if I can have Mr. Will Osteen step to the front. So as a corporal, so the routine daily activities of the corporal is to work a beat, conduct investigations, take calls, things of that nature. But the abnormal part of their job is they fill in as the supervisors. So they have to learn the duties also of the sergeants. So they fill into that role whenever called upon, and it can be literally last minute, sergeant call in sick or have to go home early and just immediately switch roles from being an officer to being that supervisor. And Will, he excelled during the testing process. He's done a great job for us in the few months that he's been a corporal already. And for that, we wanted to recognize him. So if I can have his wife, Maddie, come up. So we're going to do a ceremonial badge pinning. Maddie, if you'd like to go ahead and pin that badge. So a little bit about Will while she does that. So he's been with the department for a little over 3 years. He's earned his bachelor's degree from TWU. He holds an intermediate TCO license. He's a police instructor, a field training officer, a taser instructor, and he's currently on the Saginaw SWAT team. And with that, I'd like to congratulate Corporal Will Osteen. Thank you. You doing photographs? Yeah, we do photographs. All right, so we look at it. Up here real quick.
Thank you, Chief. Congratulations, Corporal Osteen. Next one is volunteers? Or no, we got another one?
Yeah, volunteers.
Okay.
It's all in one. Mayor, council, thanks for giving us the opportunity to recognize some outstanding employees and volunteers. As y'all know, various events we give out throughout the year are a huge undertaking for the city and the departments, all departments. Without our employees and our volunteers, they wouldn't go off as easily as they perceived to have been. So this year at the 4th of July event we had, it was extremely hot, and we had some people that were hanging around that were up to no good that later on in Fort Worth got into a shooting. It all started at our event, but we were able to prevent that thanks to their help. So members of the CERT and the Saginaw Police Officers Alumni Association normally assist with traffic control and things like that, keeping us cool. Well, this year was no different. It was 97 degrees that day with a even warmer heat index. They had the ice bucket water with the towels to keep us cool, which were lifesavers. And also, our officers and Dwayne from CPA and Assistant Chief Craver noticed these groups of individuals that looked like they were planning something, overheard people talking, so we all got together, Assistant Chief Craver, Dwayne, they both came to me, and we got everybody kind of keeping an eye out for these people to the point where they got uncomfortable and they left. They ran across the street in Saginaw. They were going to get into a fight there. We saw them there. We ran across the street, made them feel uncomfortable again. They ran across the street in Fort Worth and did things that we definitely didn't want them doing at our fireworks show. So I've got some certificates of appreciation for our volunteers and some certificates of commendation for our officers. So I know we have a busy night, so I'll try to move it right along. So Mayor Pro Tem Fileggi is a member of the CERT and the Police Academy Alumni Association. He was there that night. John Gant, sir. Mr. Gant was the ice bucket phenom who kept us all cool that night. Greatly appreciated. David Reams. Jerry? Jure. I'm well known for butchering names, so I apologize for that. And from the Saginaw Police Academy Alumni Association, Dwayne Mann. Mr. Mann was one of the first to recognize these groups and come find me and point them out, so I greatly appreciate that. Thank you. Christy Dean. Fred Pesco. Miss Judy Deller. Michael Hill. Jana Marsh. Jana. And Roy. All right. Moving on to the officers. When you open those, be careful. It's got their write-ups in there. Let's see. Assistant Chief Craver, I believe, is not here tonight. Sergeant Gayton, not here. Sergeant Gonzalez. Sergeant Gonzalez that night was off duty, up there attending the event with his family. Saw everything going on, noticed we needed help with traffic control because the event was letting out. So he volunteered, he stole my traffic vest and went off and was extremely helpful that night. Appreciate it. Corporal Manning, here. Corporal Rodriguez. Corporal Rodriguez was disappointed because he was working the drone when the shooting across the street happened, so he literally laid it down in the middle of the road. I had to go collect everything, and off he went to help the fire department. Yeah, and he was riding a bike that night in that hot night. Corporal Osteen. Officer Garcia is on vacation. Officer Barber. Officer Soriano. There she is. And Officer Renner, my assistant here tonight. So, we don't often recognize our employees often enough. We sure don't recognize our volunteers often enough. So, thank you all for making my job so much easier. Appreciate it.
You're vertically challenged like I am, so I'm going to have you step forward, and then if you're vertically advantageous, like 5'7", well, not 5'7", my bad, 5'10" and above, take it back, and then everybody will go center. Yeah, we're going to center up as well. Let's get center up. Can you actually push that microphone down? That microphone, thank you. Zag on 3, 1, 2, 3. All right. Hold on, give me a second. We got one more. All right, 1, 2, 3, cheese. All right, appreciate it.
Huh? Yeah. Look, everybody left. Now we got an empty crew. They didn't want to stay for the whole meeting. I don't understand.
I don't know. I think that's all our proclamations and, Link?
Yep.
One other thing before I forget, today is National Night Out. We will be going and touring after this, so council's going to try to be efficient tonight. So please, National Night Out, yay, celebrate, and we will attend some as
Mayor, I
we
got
can.
one thing.
Oh,
I'd
yes,
like to
sir.
give a shout out to Randy and Waste Connections. I had a huge pile of brush because
Yeah.
waste pickup is next week. Well, they got out and started early, so they weren't running behind. Picked it all up today. So
Very nice.
thank
They
you.
caught a truck on fire down the road here.
Very nice. Awesome. All right, next item, 3B, is proclamation for Saginaw Day of Prayer, and that, Councilmember Valerie Duncan.
Whereas throughout history, citizens of the United States of America have faced trials and triumphs and have responded in prayer seeking strength, guidance, inspiration, and solidarity, realizing that faith compels us to seek and cling to the light in times of darkness and spread light in those of need. Whereas prayer has played an important role in the fabric of America's society and in shaping our nation's leaders, President Abraham Lincoln once said he was driven many times to his knees in prayer due to the overwhelming conviction and knowledge that he had nowhere else to go. And whereas within the borders of the great state of Texas, our state government founders set out to honor the Holy Bible with 31 seats in the state Senate to reflect the 31 chapters of the book of Proverbs, 150 seats in the State House of Representatives to reflect the 150 chapters in the book of Psalms, and a solution in 2 Chronicles 7:14 that says, "If my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land." Whereas the city of Saginaw, Texas has designated Friday, October the 18th, 2024 as Saginaw Day of Prayer, for its citizens to pray for the ongoing successes and protections within our community, our state, and our nation, while many others around the world face uncertainty and unrest. And whereas we send our thoughts and prayers of hope for freedom and justice on behalf of those citizens around the world who seek peace, human dignity, and the same rights that we treasure and sometimes take for granted here in the United States of America. Therefore, be it resolved on Friday, October 18th, 2024, those who believe in the power of prayer are encouraging our citizens to stop, reflect on, and be thankful for the liberty that allows people of all faiths to worship or not worship according to the dictates of their own conscience, and to be thankful for the many other freedoms and blessings we enjoy as citizens in the city, this state, and our nation. Signed, Todd Flippo.
Thank you, Valerie.
You're
Great
welcome.
job. We giving this to somebody? What are we doing with this?
Well,
What do we want to do with it, I guess my question is.
do what? Do we want to give it to Dale? Okay.
Sure.
Can we give it to Dale and the preacher?
Absolutely.
Yes, y'all come up there and get it.
You gonna go take a picture with her, Valerie?
Yeah.
Why don't you do that? That's a great idea. All three of y'all be a good picture. Good to see you.
Down to the nitty-gritty here.
Sir. Thank you, Valerie. Great job. Item 4A, discussion of debt capacity. Kim Quinn, Finance Director.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. About a month ago, there was some discussion about perhaps forming another bond committee, and there was a request for, well, exactly how much debt capacity do we have? And so this is going to give you a little bit of a background and try to answer that question. There's no easy answer, yes or no. It's a matter of priorities, I would say. So I know this is small to read, but I just wanted to include everything that I could as far as a history. This is a little bit easier to read. And so in November 2019, the Citizens Bond Committee that was formed by y'all, by the City Council, made a recommendation. They prioritized the top 8 projects and recommended them to the City Council. The total was $100.3 million. There was discussion by the City Council and staff, and it was determined at that point that we would issue some interim debt. So in 2020, we issued certificates of obligation, and then we also, for some of the projects, decided that we would have a bond election in 2021. The certificates of obligation that were issued, and this was, certificates of obligation do not require voter approval. They did not go to voters. These were issued in 2020, and the largest project here, they were issued in September of 2020, and the largest project here was the fire station. They also started getting ahead on design of some of the projects that were going to go before voters in the 2021 bond election. The 2021 bond election passed all 3 propositions. The totals are here. The total of all 3 was $67,450,000. And so that was the total of all that was authorized, but we don't issue everything as it's authorized, right? We space it out so we don't have a huge jump in the tax rate, and also depending on the schedule of the projects. So to date, we have issued 49.65 million of the total that was authorized. We have remaining 17.8 million, and all of that are for street and the roadway improvements. I would say it was a month or two ago, there was a presentation with the city engineer, and you all reprioritized how the remaining bonds were going to be spent. So that's a quick picture of where we're at right now. Yeah.
So are these the only bonds the city has, these three here, A, B, C? Because I thought that we had more bonds than that.
The only bonds that are yet to be issued. Yes.
How many bonds are we currently
Paying debt on?
paying debt on? Yeah, 'cause that's what matters to me.
Okay, that's the next schedule right here.
Okay, gotcha.
So, as of right now, these are our debt service requirements. The total on the right-hand column is the total amount that we pay with our current debt that's being issued, that has been issued. So, what we try to do in the past, what we've tried to do is take a look and see where we're paying off debt, and you'll see a decrease, and that's what we've normally called when we have capacity, right? So instead of having to increase taxes to issue more debt, we could leave the tax rate the same and issue more debt to fill in that gap. Your other option in that case would be to not issue debt, and then the tax rate, the INS portion of the tax rate would go down. So based on this current debt service requirements, we don't see what we would call capacity until 2034, where we see a decrease in our total debt service requirements. This doesn't show the whole picture, though, because we know in the next 2 years, we're going to issue the remaining $17.6 million, or $17.8 million, but it looks very similar. And the reason for that is that our financial advisors structure the debt in such a way to try to smooth it out. So you'll see that the overall debt requirements are going up, but we still don't see a big drop-off until 2034. And that's where we would be able to issue debt without increasing the tax rate. Now, that's not to say that taxes wouldn't increase, but the overall rate would stay the same, or our debt requirements would stay the same. Any questions on this part of it? No. Okay. So this is just, again, to give you some background and start thinking about all of the things that you should consider at this time. So this slide is showing you the very top little box there shows the information that we gave to the voters. Our best estimate at the bond election was that issuing all three propositions would impact the tax rate by 13 cents, or a total tax increase for an average value home of $249.29. The middle box there shows to date what actually happened. So in 2021, the tax rate was 46.1579 cents. The tax rate that we just adopted is the 45.3277 cents. The difference between, in the last 4 years, overall, the tax rate has gone down by about a penny. If you look at that, remember the tax rate is comprised of two different parts, O&M, which is operating, which funds our general fund, and INS is the debt service. That's what we use to pay off our debt. So you'll see that the O&M side has actually gone down in the last 4 years by almost 5 cents. The INS has gone up by about 4 cents. Overall, the tax rate's gone down by almost 1 cent. And then the very far right column is showing dollars based on an average value home. So the O&M side has increased by $177. The INS side, $231, for a total increase in the last 4 years of about $408. So we are under what we were estimating. We've gone up about 4 cents when we were estimating about 13 cents. So far, we've gone up $231 compared to the $249, and the reason for that is the home value, average home value, has increased by about $60,000 in the last 4 years. The bottom rectangle there is showing what we estimate it will be by the year 26-27, when we have issued the remaining authorization, the remaining bonds for the street projects. So I've left the O&M the same just for comparison's sake. We estimate that the overall tax rate for INS, on the INS side, will go up about 5 cents, and that the average homeowner will pay $251.35 as a result of the total 2021 bond election. So about $2 more than what we had originally thought. So that's where we are, just based on the current bond authorizations without having another bond election or additional projects. This is showing you just historical property tax rates for the last 10 years. We were at a high of 1516 of 54 cents, and then it's showing our current tax rate for the last 10 years. So you'll see the operating side has gone down, and the INS side has gone up. Overall, we've gone down. So summary, I would say, this slide here just gives us a summary of any additional debt issued before 2034. We don't have capacity until it drops off then, so there would be a tax increase. Now, knowing that y'all had talked about these projects, I had our financial advisor do some estimates for us. And we just used 54.5 cents because that's the highest we've had in the last 10 years. If you wanted to go raise the tax rate up to that, you could issue about $40 million, but that wouldn't be until 2027, 2029. We would issue $20 million in 2027, $20 million in 2029. That's the best estimate right now. If you wanted to go up to $50 million and issue $25 million each of those 2 years, the projected tax rate would be about 59 cents to do that. I want to caution you, though, that these are just estimates, and it's just including the debt side. And I think that y'all really need to understand and prioritize what we consider all of the information before you decide that we're going to go for another bond election. And the reason I say that is because we also need to consider the operating side. We don't want to issue more debt and not understand that the operating side, we're going to have increased expenditures there too. And so that's what these next slides are, is to get you to take a look at the whole picture and prioritize what is the most important and what direction do we need to go in. So these next few slides here are things that and this is not an all-inclusive list, this is just off the top of my head, the most important things that come to mind. We know automatically next year for 25-26, we don't want to have adopted a new pay plan and get behind. So there's all likelihood that we're gonna have a cost of living that we need to keep up. The pay plan keep current, and then we also have step increases for most all of the positions. We know that we're going to have a full year of the ambulance fee that we're going to have to pay for the city of Fort Worth. We added at the end of the budget process a deep cleaning of the community center. That was a one-time, but if you want to continue that, that's going to be an ongoing cost. We know that we're going to have this beautiful new facility across the street. There's going to be operating costs involved associated with that, like insurance and utilities and all of those things. That's not even talking about staffing yet, but that's the best estimate that we have at this point.
So is that 203, is that above and beyond what our current operating cost is to run our library?
Yes. Yeah.
That choked me up. Yeah.
Don't leave the lights on.
Yeah.
And we are going to have to, we extended the contract for STW tonight. We know we aren't going to have a choice. We're going to have to change to a new system. We just don't know what that is yet, and it is going to cost more. We know that much. Then the other things to consider are staffing. We know that we've got the 50% of the emergency management coordinator that we'll have to fund in some way. And then we have those 4 temporary positions that we added in this current fiscal year, that if you want to continue them on in the future, they need to get added to the operating budget.
Gabe, can we go back one slide? The 9,620,000 for deep cleaning for the community center, can we get an estimate of what it would cost to, the reason we're spending that is people who's renting it is not leaving it in the shape they should. So to me, that cost should be transferred on to them. So what would the cost, what would we have to raise the cost of a rental for that community center to cover that for a year?
I think if memory serves me right, was it $185 a week for the cleaning? So, you know, we could maybe transfer that to the rental fee that we require cleaning after use or something,
Yeah.
if I understand you correctly.
Yeah, right, I mean,
Aren't they supposed to clean up when they leave, except for maybe not mop the floors unless there's something on there or something, but aren't they supposed to clean up? Because that's what I thought we did.
Yeah.
I cleaned up every time I ran it, so I don't understand. I mean,
They do clean up afterwards. We have, after the week, through the weekend is, we have the rental attendant check it to make sure that they clean up after themselves. Then my staff comes in and checks it, and then Randy's staff comes in and checks it. So there's 3 layers of that to make sure after the rentals, but during the week, we don't have rentals. We have classes in there, and so there's the difference there. The rentals are really Friday, Saturday, Sunday. During the week, it's just classes only.
so there's the only class, I'm sorry, go ahead.
the classes, do they clean up after themselves?
Yes. And then we have the cleaning crew that comes in there. I think it's, I don't remember the exact date off the top of my head, but they come in there, I think 3 days a week or 4 days a week to clean.
Well, I was even asked, what kind of classes? I mean, I know that you have the quilters group, what are the?
Quilters are on Thursdays, and we actually have we're scheduling for our cleaning crew to come in on Wednesday nights to do the deep cleaning every week. But we have different dance classes, martial arts type classes, things like that.
Those were classes that used to be scheduled at the rec center, but now because the senior center is taking up those rooms, we're having classes there, which brings in revenue.
Yeah, it's good, I'm glad to have that, I'm just, to me, this should be a cost that's transferred on to the people who's causing the problem.
Are there plans to bring those classes back to the rec center once the seniors move out?
Yes.
Okay.
We're just limited with 2 rooms.
Right,
They
I
took our 2
understand.
largest rooms to accommodate the senior center.
But again, I mean, this may not be an ongoing cost if we don't have all those classes at the community center.
Well,
that'd be
the-
pushing
the-
more classes.
Some of the classes that we have at the at the community center will be moved back to the rec center, but we also, like we did before, and before COVID, is we programmed both facilities with classes.
Okay.
Some of the classes that we had before was we had the day or play school on, I think it was Mondays and Wednesdays, and then when COVID happened, the instructor's like, yeah, I need to find something else to do. And we've had some kind of good news, bad news, where some of our instructors, like one of our dance classes, were doing exceptionally well, that they went to a brick and mortar to where they had more space and more time, and which is good for them. Bad for us, but it's good for them. So. But yeah, our intention is move a number of those classes from community center to the rec center, and then continue programming both facilities.
Okay.
All right, keep going, Kim.
Okay. So then in addition to those positions that we know of, we also have quite a long list of special requests that weren't funded in this current fiscal year, and most of those, again, are positions. There are public service positions, library positions for the new facility, animal shelter positions, and then a multimedia specialist position. Again, I'm not going to go into detail. I'm just trying to get y'all to look at overall issues, and we need to prioritize and make sure that you're aware of all of the issues. Then my last slide is just the capital projects that we discussed that would necessitate the bond election. Again, it's not an all-inclusive list, just trying to get them out there for y'all to start thinking about.
Now, as we move towards, I guess we call it build out, where I think it's maximum 35,000 people, we're going to have to hire people to match that. So I didn't see that here. So that would have to be calculated in, right?
Correct.
Plus, we'll have new values.
We will have new value. A lot of the new value will be in the TERS, so the general fund will get 50% of that value. And it really takes some long-term planning, and we'll just have to prioritize. The intent of tonight was not to come up with long-range tax rates. It's just to, in reply to the answer, what is our debt capacity, and to explain that it's not an easy answer to give you a dollar amount, that really all of these things need to be considered, and we really need to prioritize where we want our tax increases to happen. I don't want y'all thinking that we can issue debt and increase the tax rate, and then when it comes time to adopt the budget, we don't want to increase the operating side because we've increased the debt side.
Yeah, I mean, to me, we have to, I mean, I understand that there are models and stuff, but we have to model out through build out, and we have to calculate that in on our operating budget. We have to have a solid what we actually think will happen in our operating budget before we can even go back and start looking at bonds.
So, Mayor, just a couple quick comments. One, the TERS was created, the boundaries were created specifically to allow for future improvement of East McElroy. So TERS funds would be eligible for East McElroy, a good portion of it. As you might recall from a couple months ago, the section between the Boulevard and, what is it, Spring Hollow, is going to take 2 to 3 years. Is that correct, with the state? With the state and the railroads. So we've got some lag time before we're actually be with construction dollars. Probably 5 years ago now, time flies, we did a long-term financial plan with Lewis McLean, if you remember. We had a printed, it was like, I called it the placemat, reminded me of my placemat from grade school. But we projected out staffing per capita. We're still well under our projected staffing per capita, and our operating tax rate within the county continues to be like within the 5 lowest or something. I mean, we have a pretty low operating tax rate, and that speaks well to.
But are we shooting ourselves in the foot by having under projected per capita of resources? I mean.
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, I think no decisions tonight, like Kim had mentioned, but the thought is to get you thinking about if we expand facilities or there is an operating component that goes with it.
Absolutely.
You gotta have heads to operate all these facilities.
That's
You got
right.
Nice shiny new buildings.
Utilities, I
Yeah.
mean, utility costs, landscaping for facilities, you name it. It all adds up.
All right, one thing before I forget. when we're talking about the bond, potential bond election or bond committee, if you have not sent me the folks that you want to nominate for that bond committee, please send those to me sooner than later, so we can get that started. I've gotten from a few folks, but not everyone. So send it to me and Janice. So Kim, anything else?
That's all.
Anything else, council?
Appreciate it, Kim. That's
All right,
nice.
I'm sure more to come on this, but thank y'all. Thank you, Kim. 4B, consideration and action regarding Chapter 380 Economic Development Agreement with Fuel City. Randy Newsom, Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a request from Fuel City for a 380 request between us and them for the grant, the 380 grant. They're the driving force behind all of the improvements over there on that intersection. 600 foot of industrial road will be repaired in this construction project, as well as a turn lane, a right turn lane off of 156 onto industrial, which is much needed right now, because you can't, if you've ever been over there, the road's horrible, traffic's horrible. So they actually got on board and actually hired a consultant that works with TxDOT and got this project shoved off back in 21 or 22. And they felt strongly enough that they've got invested $300,000 right now about in this project. So their ask is for this 380 development agreement to be in the amount of, not to exceed in the amount of $250,000. It's the same 380 agreement, kind of like we did with Applebee's, although it's 5 years rather than 10 years. So, Keith, you have any?
It's structured differently. It's similar to the Applebee's agreement that was done about 12 or, I don't remember, 15 years ago, something like that, but it's only a 5-year deal. I don't really have any other comment other than from what they have said, that they feel that their sales tax revenues will certainly increase, and you know, I take my work hat off and be my human being hat and put it on, and when I go get coffee and mix the Texas pecan and the cinnamon together half and half, it's delicious. But when I pull up there and I see that, you know, a perfect 90-degree angle of people heading, or a semi-truck trying to head east or south, really, or heading east but want to turn south, they can't. It's extremely difficult for them to make the turn. It's extremely difficult for them to make the turn wanting to head west. And even as a customer wanting to buy my half cinnamon, half Texas pecan coffee, if it's backed up with semi-trucks trying to get there, I'm like, I'll just go to the next one. And the same type of thing happens with the semi-trucks. They'll go to another place just because I can't imagine driving a truck through there. Pulling a trailer would be difficult, but just driving a semi-truck to try and get in there, it's pretty difficult. So I would agree that their sales tax revenue would shoot way up there.
Council, any questions for Randy or Keith? Yes, Cindy.
Has QT offered to step in, or has anybody talked to QT?
They granted us some right-of-way over there on that project. Funding-wise, they haven't put anything forward. It's between 5 entities over there: TxDOT, City of Saginaw, City of Fort Worth, Tarrant County, and
Fuel City.
Fuel City. Yeah, Fuel City, 300,000. So it's been a difficult project, to say the least, to get, because we had a lot of utility conflicts on that thing, and you know, but it's starting to grow legs and get going.
So it's my understanding that because everybody and their brother has something buried over there, this was extremely complicated, and if they hadn't have picked up the ball and ran with it, it would have been years before anything would have ever got done.
That is correct.
Yeah, unless somebody brings up something, I can't figure out, you know, I'm extremely supportive of this for them. I mean, like I say, they took the initiative. They really helped Saginaw out.
They did.
Absolutely.
Fuel City is an incredible community partner.
Yeah.
You're looking at about a between $6 to $7 million project, and our part's only going to be $300,000.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah, you're right.
It's
It wouldn't
good
happen
job.
without Fuel City.
Right.
Would not have happened at all. Council, other questions? Comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve 4B as written.
I'll second.
Valerie, second. Please cast your votes. Motion passes. Thank you, guys. Send our gratitude to Fuel City as well. Tell them we really appreciate them stepping up.
Yes, sir.
Item 4C, consideration action regarding the addition of a public comment item to future city council agenda. Back from Parts Beyond with the tan, Bryn Meredith.
Is it still there? It started as a burn, trust me. So I've had this conversation with a couple of members of council, and there was some interest in discussing how to facilitate members of the public and allow them to speak on items of concern that we may or may not know about in advance, and in addition, regardless of whether we object to the topic or not. So state law currently only requires that you allow members of the public to speak prior to or during the specific items on the agenda only, okay? But I have 2 other home rule cities that have different rules in place, and of course, every city does it slightly differently. So I'll give you an example. The city of Bedford allows members of the public, as long as they provide their written request for an agenda item, and they supply it to the city secretary by noon the Wednesday prior, they are entitled to have their own agenda item on the agenda. So the pros and cons of that are you could end up with a very heavy agenda of random topics that you have no interest in taking action on. On the other hand, if the item is on the agenda, you can actually deliberate it without violating the Open Meetings Act. Okay, so there's always a pros and cons to both. Flower Mound does not allow you to have an item on the agenda. It still has to be approved by either the mayor or 3 members of council there or the city manager, but they allow you to speak on anything that you would like. They established reasonable time limits of 3 minutes per person, but they also allow donated time. So we've had people invite their entire neighborhood out, and everyone fills out a form saying, I donate my 3 minutes to this person, and you do the math and you realize they have an hour to speak, which filibusters basically. You have actual business on the agenda, people who've paid for their zoning cases, and they're waiting in the back row until 9, 10 o'clock at night before their case is even taken up. We've also had First Amendment auditors show up. Michael Jackson has been to the council meeting several times with the wig, a boombox, and a put-on high voice, and he talks about, pedophilia and all sorts of horrible things. So if you, just worst case scenario, everything has a pro and a con.
So can you, say you did 3 minutes, can you put a limit to this? We're going to do 30 minutes, so that would be 10 people. And at the end, the first, have them do it. Can you put a time limit where you don't end up here all night?
So you potentially could do that if the items are not on the agenda.
Right.
If it's related to an item on the agenda, so you could have let's say, a public comment for non-agenda items only, right? And then you could say the first 10 people to sign up, you get 3 minutes each, or 30 minutes total regardless. I think that would be content neutral and just fine, so long as you allowed people who wanted to speak on the actual agenda items, when the item comes up, you allow them to speak. So yes.
Can you limit the 3 minutes to a particular topic, so you don't have 10 people come up and speak about the same thing or allocate their time?
You can adopt, so what the law says with respect to the posted agenda items, you can adopt reasonable content neutral regulations. And so you could say, for this item, we see there's a lot of people in the audience, we're gonna allow 2 minutes per speaker for this item, as long as you don't favor, you can't say the people in support of this get 3 minutes and the people against it get 1 minute. So yes. And the other thing you have to keep in mind is I know this probably goes without saying, but you cannot prohibit somebody from being critical of the council. So some of these public comment rules are antiquated, and they basically say no criticisms, you know what I mean? And those sorts of things violate the First Amendment.
And we already say they only have 3 minutes, don't we?
We don't always hold them to that. We can, but we don't
Oh.
always.
I thought we kind of stuck to that.
We could get
pretty
out a
close.
lot of it just by having a 30-minute, 3 minutes, but no more than 30. So the first 10 people showed up, if them 10 people wanted to talk about the same subject, they could.
That's right. That's right. You could do that. Again, you would want to say this is specifically for non-posted agenda.
Yeah, for non-posted.
That's right. That's right.
But I guess why would we want to do this? And I've got a couple, and humor me while I say, I'm not trying to be funny. We have now, people can comment on anything on the agenda, great. They can come in and put something on the agenda ahead of time. If we open this up, go on Facebook to the craziest people on there, that's what you could get. Do we want to waste staff's time, our time with that kind of folks? Hopefully not, but as you said, I don't want somebody up here in a wig singing to me in their 3 minutes. That is not a good use of my time, staff's time as well. I don't see any reason why we need to change what we already have. It works well, people get to talk, they want to talk about something on the agenda, great, come talk about it. We've had folks talk for a long time, we've had a lot of folks talk before on controversial items, and that's fine. Opening up to nothing, and also another thing that I was reminded by a former member of the school board, when they used to have this kind of rule, somebody get up there and start talking and say demonstrably false things that are not true, and you have no way to respond. We sort of sit here. We can't say a thing, or it's against the law. So
You can't deliberate it if it's not on the agenda.
Right.
That's all you can do is thank them for their time.
right. So they come here and they could spew lies, falsehoods, hate, whatever. We cannot say a thing. We can't stop. We can't say a thing. So just keep that in mind. That's what you could get. So please keep that in mind when you're thinking about this. How we do it now works pretty well. I haven't had a lot of complaints about it, so I certainly would not be a big a fan of pushing this another way.
So if a citizen has a grievance and they want to address council, us, they have to, in order to address us, they either have to get 2 of us to agree, or they have to get the mayor.
They have to get 2 to put
Yeah.
it on the
But
agenda.
the mayor can put something
Yeah.
on without. So it's either the mayor or 2 council members have to, right?
I think so. Is that correct? That's correct, right?
That's my recollection of the policy that you all adopted several years ago.
Yeah.
So,
So, yeah.
How many entities in our area, or what percentage of the entities, cities, counties, have this type of public agenda item?
So I don't want to speak to counties, we don't represent any counties, but most cities that I know of have a public comment segment at the beginning of the meeting. Now, it varies as to whether that public comment segment specifically says, this is your opportunity to speak on the posted agenda items only, which is essentially the equivalent of what you all are doing. You just don't do it at the front of the agenda, you do it throughout a topic-by-topic basis, versus other cities that basically, it truly is a free-for-all. You come up and you can get legitimate concerns that council learns about, and they thank the speaker, and then you get crazy people who are trying to monetize YouTube videos, and they come with the entire dog and pony show. And as I mentioned, we've had this, and once you adopt the rules, so Flower Mound is stuck with the donated time rule. So when you get an entire neighborhood, they essentially filibuster, and they can come every meeting. I've had them come to P&Z, and the item that they're protesting hasn't even made it out of staff review yet. And they take 2 hours at P&Z, then they'll come to the council meeting and take 2 hours, and they'll be at the next one, and they'll be at the next one until the item finally makes its way through P&Z and council.
So if we did that, would this apply to P and Z as well? The rules, how do we?
That's up to you all as well, whether or not you want to allow or require, essentially, other boards and commissions to have a true, open, public forum for people to talk about whatever they'd like. And you'll find some funny videos on YouTube. A woman at a P&Z meeting recently in another state came to complain about, during a zoning case, came to complain about how she felt mistreated at the library. You have to sort of interrupt politely and say, do you have anything to do with this case? Well, no. I just wanted to be heard.
So how often do legitimate items come up? More frequently than the unusual?
I think it's unusual for it to be a true surprise. Occasionally, something will be brought up. It's, well, thank you for bringing that to our attention. But oftentimes, they've already reached out to staff. They've already emailed the council with their concerns. And even if you'll find, candidly, just as my experience, even if you satisfied their concerns, if they've already written their speech, they're going to read that speech to you because they put the time and effort into it, and you're going to listen to it, even though the city manager or staff has already resolved the problem for the individual.
But they're a taxpayer, and that's their right, in my opinion. I mean,
And their freedom
they
of
should-
speech.
there should be some way that they get to look the people that they voted in, their representatives, in the eye and tell them what they think. So I definitely don't agree with open everything, but I just want to make sure that our citizens, if they have a grievance, that they can come before the council, God and everyone, and state their piece. We may not like it. They may get up there and call me a blue-eyed devil. I don't know, but that's their right.
And then the Bedford model might work for that.
Yeah.
So people who have thought about it, and it's not just spontaneous, they're not looking for kicks on a Monday night, they have to spend the time and effort to prepare a written request to be on the agenda prior to noon the Wednesday prior for the meeting.
Go ahead, Brad.
Could we maybe provide an additional form in the chambers that allows someone to fill out if they have something that's not on the agenda, that they turn into the city secretary, and then that comes up for deliberation of, it's presented to council, and if two members of council agree that, yes, that's a valid thing to put on the agenda, it gets put on the agenda for the next meeting.
Can we do that?
Just
Yes, absolutely.
have something like that. You're addressing it,
Yeah.
but you're going through the process,
Yeah.
and you're making sure it's not some flagrant, waste of time. But at the same time, you're dealing with any legitimate
Absolutely agree.
issue that does come up.
So I think, to me, I think what would be good is to have with council subcommittee, 3 council members, along with the city. Gabe, you can pick whoever, Janice, would be good. Go off, look at all these different options, and maybe come back with a recommendation.
I know there's a couple of cities that have the public opinion segment, and the first person gets 3 minutes on this topic. Let's say at a street improvement on McElroy. The second person gets 2 minutes, and the third person gets 1 minute. So you're cutting it off at 6 minutes, and that's the end of the discussion for that topic for that evening. And then you can go on to the next segment or the next item.
Well, it can get a little complicated too, as discerning whether or not it's the same topic or not. I mean,
Well, that's what the
you don't wanna make it-
form would come in.
Yeah, you don't want to make it too complicated on yourselves either.
And this is why I'm recommending maybe there be a subcommittee. 3 council members go off, figure out what, look at all the different, there's a plethora of options it looks like you'd have to figure out maybe what you all together would think, and then.
We got the TML coming up, so that might be a place to do some research.
Absolutely, there you go.
I mean, one of the issues that we have to deal with too is you've got people running for council, and they are at the microphone, and they're entitled to speak about whatever they want, talk about their platform. But then you all, because it's an open measure, right? You're running for office. If you use public funds to advocate for your candidacy as a rebuttal to the speaker, you could be turned into the ethics commission. So there's, just to, not to wear you out, but just to give you some examples of unintended consequences.
You're opening up a potential Pandora's box with some of these things.
Yeah, I mean, if we do decide to do a subcommittee to do this, a very well option could be come back to say, what we're doing is perfectly good enough and we recommend nothing. But I think it'd be good to have a subcommittee to go off and look at all the different, this thing can be a, you know, if we do want to do something like that, come together and, you know, dig through it.
Okay.
I don't know. That's my recommendation. I don't know what the other council thinks.
How accessible is the form that we have where citizens can put something on the agenda? And is there a guarantee that their concerns will be on the next agenda?
I've actually never seen the form, but I think Janice might be able to shed some light on that.
We do have a form, and it is posted on the website. It states on there their name, address, what do you want to discuss, who's going to speak. You can list 2 to 3 people on there, and then it explains on there that you have to have it turned in before noon, before the Tuesday meeting, on Wednesday. Wednesday noon before the Tuesday meeting. So if I get one, then that goes to the mayor, and he sees it.
So if it goes to the mayor, does it go to the council? Did they have to get either the mayor or 2 council member approvals?
Well, the form itself just has for the mayor to sign. Now, it doesn't have to go, we haven't in the past.
Could we add a step then, if the mayor decides not to, that it goes out to council, and then if 2 council members decide that they want to put it on the agenda, they do it?
It certainly could be done. That right, and that's an option that you all could entertain, and
I'm trying to remember the last time we saw one of those forms. I can't remember ever turning one down or even seeing one recently.
Yeah, I only know of 2 since I've been on council. There was a gentleman upset about calling the 911 number, and he got told to call the non-emergency number. And then I think the Hill family was the other one. That's only 2 I can remember in 4 years.
Yeah. Do we have somewhere online that you could put public comments?
With our system we have now, we don't use the part where somebody could comment during a meeting. Is that what you mean?
Just public and, you know, if there was a problem or something, they wanted just some public comment so people could comment on it.
We could do that on the.
Probably be too much, yeah.
Yeah, that might be able
I
to be
gotcha.
added to something there, or we have had people email us or drop comments off that couldn't be at a meeting and ask for it to be read. That has happened over the years.
And we're, okay, so they could do that. Maybe we should publish that somewhere online so that they'd know.
And it may just come down to educating the public a little bit more about that this option is available.
Yeah,
No, that's very true.
But I agree with
Yeah.
Nick. I'd like to explore this opportunity.
yeah,
All right, so then we okay taking no action tonight? We'll form
yeah.
some
Yep.
kind of committee and look into it?
Yeah.
Is that good with everybody? All right, so then y'all offline send me, if you want to be on that committee, send me a note, and then staff can come up with whom they're recommending. So we can do that in the next month or so. All right, so moving on. No action on 4C. So 4D, discussion presentation, city manager, performance review, Gabriel?
Mayor and council, I'll be brief. I know we're headed out to National Night Out festivities, so thank you for the opportunity last week to discuss the year. Hard to believe, but in a couple months I'll have 7 years here. That's been a lot of fun the past 7 years. I probably have 7 years left in the tank. I don't know about after that. I'll make no commitments. So want to go through some of your feedback. The idea here is that everybody, all of our directors, our team can hear the same thing so that we best understand your expectations and move forward. Start off with the annual work plan. The request was to have a monthly standalone report. We talked about how these projects kind of move in fits and starts. They're not necessarily linear. The council in the past, say 3 years, has adopted the work plan in approximately February, March. So the sooner the better really is best for staff. So Pedro has since created a website, which I think we showed you last time, that has all of our links and links to times when we've discussed these items. So we'll continue to use that to track, as well as have the monthly report. So I think that'll be a good change. Next piece of feedback I heard was about weekly updates. There was a desire to change the format and or include more information. The specific requests were work order ticket requests from Public Works, the fire department, general project updates, economic development, library, and also new construction projects within the city. So the way we kind of previously do it is when things come up that are of interest, we share that. It was mentioned, I hate to create favorites and rivalry. It was mentioned that the police department had a good report, and it was, these are not my terms, this was the gold standard. So, sir, you're gonna have to, y'all can make it work. No, the fire department issued or had a draft report, not last week, but 2 weeks ago with some similar information. The caveat there is most of the calls of the fire department are medical in nature, so there's some privacy. They were able to create a heat map, which I understand they're working out the mechanics of how to do that consistently, but I've heard from some of you, it's been favorably received. I also heard that the economic development report was a little shorter, and that was much appreciated. So I guess I'm asking, is there any other information that you might want to see on a weekly basis?
The reports I've seen that came through look good.
They're good, yeah. So the only change I would say is we will probably put that in a uniform template. So instead of having 4 or 5 attachments, we'll just dump it into one template, and all the various pieces will be there. Yeah, so that's good to hear. Heard feedback from you regarding garage gabs, that the desire was to post future garage gabs as a notification of potential quorum. We can pretty easily do that. With cooler weather, I would expect we'll get requests for garage gabs. They kind of come up infrequently. So when it's 200 degrees in the summer, not too many people want to be outside. In fact, one of our last ones was indoors. It was at the United Methodist Church, which was fun. So easy change to do. And again, please encourage folks you know to request a garage gab. They've been very useful. We've got a lot done. Talked about freedom of information requests, which is really something that Janice handles. And essentially, we turn information around as soon as we can get it. It's farmed out to many different departments, and then there are certain exceptions, mostly with the police department, where information has to be redacted or removed. Staff council relations. So I want to thank you and remind our staff. So today is our first day of our fiscal year, and the first day where our staff will have raises that the council unanimously approved. I'm very thankful for that. All of us are. I think all of our directors can share that for their departments. So,
So you're saying today is the actual first day of there will be no Saginaw discount?
hey, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I like that. So now the caveat, there's always a caveat. I think Melanie's going to send a reminder out to employees. Our pay period ends on Wednesday, so employees will have 2 days at their new pay rate. So, you know, the real appreciation will come in a couple weeks, I think, when people get the full impact. But thank you very much. The staff council relations, so the employee survey committee, one of the recommendations when that committee concluded was to do some policy updates, which Lee will be working through in the next few months. And this is just good practice. It's been, I don't know, 10, 15 years, however long it's been, for personnel policies and that sort of thing. So that's ongoing. Future salary discussions, this was mentioned. So really, by the council's action, again unanimously, thank you for your support, the compensation plan that the council adopted says, to the extent that we can, when we can afford it, council commits to ongoing cost of living increases, to step increases, which are 3%, and if we pass the cost of health insurance down to employees, that there's some sort of offset. That way we don't get into the hole that we were for a while. This is easy stuff, and I anticipate that you know, this will be our path going forward. In fact, Kim mentioned this in her presentation, that, you know, this is, the council set this as an expectation. I'd like to share, to your credit, you know, just some early successes. The police department has a handful of certified applicants that look promising. I don't know how many of those applicants will shake out and we'll be able to hire, but the fact that we're getting certified applicants is tremendously positive. We had a new water employee begin today that I believe was the first licensed water employee we've had in probably 2 or 3 years. Direct result of salary competitiveness. There are times throughout the course of the year where directors choose to change job titles, do a reclassification, or somebody retires or something, and we change things up. Again, that's at department discretion. That is always within the adopted budget. So the city council approves the budget. It's up to myself and staff to manage that budget. And when we see, we need above and beyond, that rises to the level of an adjustment, which we typically do mid-year and year-end. So I would anticipate title changes, reclassifications, changes in duties. That's ongoing. That'll continue. That's happened before my time here and certainly during my tenure. Probably the biggest off the top of my head, when our captains in the fire department retired, 4 years ago now? The chief said, hey, this is time to make a change, and that's something we'll continue. It's sort of good business. Requests. So I'm going to put a disclaimer. You'll probably tire of seeing it. If there is any information outstanding that you may have requested, it was mentioned, you may have told me we haven't provided, please let me know. Email's best. I sent a number of informational type items out in the past week. The most recent was a request for the comparison of contracted mowing services versus doing that in-house. So I sent that out. If there happens to be anything that you would like to see, please let me know. We can get it turned around to you pretty quickly. The last thing, and this is good and timely, so biggest event, or one of the biggest events of the year is Saturday, Train and Grain. We plan for this really the whole year. And our other events are kind of falling into that category, given their size, their popularity. Human beings love free things, and they come because of that. So the request was to have an after-action report, like kind of a summary following all city events. We kind of do this already internally. We just put it to paper. So I'd like to recognize the Mayor Pro Tem. Sat down with him last week to talk about, once we get over Train and Grain, the next big event is Trunk or Treat, to talk about changing kind of the flow and crowd control, parking, lots of little things. So we're planning on having about twice for Trunk or Treat the staff on hand to help out. If we have, I think we had 1,200 pounds of candy last year. I'm sure we'll get close to the end just because people love our events. They show up and they're fun and safe. That's our priority with our events. So happy to get those reports to you, shortly after the events, and happy to hear your feedback. So that's
Any questions for Gabe? Questions, comments for Gabe? Oh, Cindy, I'm sorry.
I've mentioned this several years in a row, but there are wholesale places to buy candy instead of Sam's, saving the city a lot of money. Have y'all looked into those?
I think we're taking our dump truck from Public Works and just getting no, it's a great idea. I honestly don't get in the weeds, but that's a great idea. We can certainly buy in bulk. We go through it.
Sorry, any other questions? Thanks, sir.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate
Appreciate it.
Good update. All right, so it is 7:13. We're in executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code 5501.074 personnel matters. At 7:13, we will return to adjourn.
Just raise your right hand. She can't get it up.
Okay. So Brack made the motion, Paul second. All in favor, raise your right hand. At 7:53, we are adjourned. Thank y'all.
Mr. Mayor, Ragsdale Harris,